Hi everybody, this is Oleg. Welcome to Oregon Preparedness. Yesterday, one of the viewers and commenters suggested that I would make a video about Ukraine and its people, and how many people, most people I would say, are sort of preppers in a way already. So, without further ado, let's start with a quick overview of SHTF scenarios that happened in Ukraine. We'll go back to less than 100 years. We'll start with an event called Holodomor. Holodomor was man-made famine in Ukraine in 1932 and 1933. By some estimates, around 12 million people died. And how many more weren't born, who knows? I'm not sure what Stalin was trying to do. I think he was trying to kill off the whole nation. For some reason he had some beef against Ukrainians. So people went through that. My grandma, she's dead now. She was a little baby when that happened. And of course, she didn't live through it to remember. She was too small, but obviously she knew a thing or two about it from her mother. And I know this much: my grandma came from a large family of 12 kids, and only 6 survived. Other 6 died. So people, obviously, after that kind of event, were trying to have some storage in their pantries, in their cellars, surplus food, if they could, when they could. Then comes 1941, and Second World War hits former Soviet Union, and of course Ukraine, which was part of it back then. And the war, lasted for 4 years. The Second World War lasted longer than that, but from the beginning of war on Ukrainian soil until the end of Second World War, it was 4 years, and lots of Ukrainians died in that war. Most of Ukraine was just destroyed and hit by war. There again, my grandma was a teenager at that time, and I heard endless stories which were always super interesting to me. About how they were surviving through that war. And if any of you are interested in any of these stories, you can just drop some comments below and I'll make a video about it. So there was another major SHTF in the Ukraine, in the whole Soviet Union, but as well as Ukraine. Of course, since then, nothing major happened, with exception of bonus SHTF, which happened much later, and that was in 1986, the accident on Chernobyl power plant. As most of you probably know, there was big explosion on that nuclear power plant, and to this day that area is off limits. I think they start to make little tours, quick tours. I guess some tourists wants to see it. You still need to wear all kinds of masks, special gas masks and so on, and go there and look. I wouldn't want to go there for nothing, Anyway, so there was enough of major events in the Ukraine that people went through hard times when there was lack of food. Therefore, people just naturally, every chance they got, they put some food away. And people in the country, and now I'm talking about my childhood, which is 80s. I was born in 72, so from what I remember, late 70s and 80s, we left in 89. In the country, I would say 99% of people were preppers without being it, without trying to be preppers on purpose, or without knowing about it. they were preppers, because they were all having giant, huge gardens. In that garden you would see everything from potatoes to green peas to, you know, cucumbers, onions, garlic, watermelons. I mean, everything and anything that can grow in the northern hemisphere, people would grow. And their gardens would not be little. Their gardens would be, I would say, at least each person had a garden, I would say, about 5,000 square feet or more. Just huge gardens, you know. My grandma's sister, they lived in the country. Their garden was, I would say, probably half an acre. Just pure garden, pure food that they were growing for themselves. And all the people had cellars where they would keep that food. Of course, everything was seasonal. Whether you live in the country or in the city, everything was seasonal. So when there was season, obviously you would eat a lot of that fruit or vegetable, and you would can. Everybody were in the canyon. I'm not sure exactly what's going on now. It's been 30 years, you know. I'm slightly out of touch of what's happening over there. I have plans on visiting Ukraine again to see what's happening. I kind of miss it. You know, I want to see some of my extended family, you know. But I think in the country it still probably exists roughly to the same levels as if it was when I was there. In the city probably less, because in the city now they have similar system as to here. They have all the fruits and vegetables pretty much year round. Okay, back to the days when I was there. In the city it was slightly different, because of course folks that lived in the houses, they would still have garden. They would, all of the in the city, the lots were a lot smaller than in the country, obviously, and people would still use every inch of their soil to grow some food, some potatoes, some tomatoes, whatever. And city or country, everybody were canyon. So because that's the food you would eat, you know, in the winter time. I don't exactly remember if there was no fruits or vegetables at all in the winter time. I think there was some, but not a lot, because everything was government owned back then, and government agricultural agencies would also, you know, put food away and then sell it slowly, like things like potato in the store. But I remember we lived in the city. I was born and grew up in the city. But we lived in a little house, and we had a cellar. I remember to this day how my father and I made it. We were digging it inside our shed. It was underground cellar, and that's how pretty much everybody who had a house had a cellar. And in that cellar you would keep your preps, you would keep your potatoes, and they would stay pretty good. They would stay there for months, you know, without trying to grow. And towards the spring it would start growing, and then of course you would eat less potatoes or no potatoes, and so on and so forth. People who lived in apartments, they would have somebody that would know who lived in the house, and they would share cellar together. And people also who lived in apartments, those people who had some extra money, they would have also tiny little houses outside the city. We used to call them dacha. And dacha meant a little tiny house, usually would be a little building with a lot of land around. And this is a place where you would go on the weekends to relax and or grow food. And that's where you would have your cellar with food. So basically, for the past 100 years, give or take, probably longer than that, people in the former Soviet Union, and particularly Ukraine, have been preppers in a way. Additionally, if you lived in the country, there was not one single yard, one single household that would not have animals. Animals like chickens and ducks and or pigs and or cow, because pigs were good to have. My grandma from my father's side always had pigs, always. As soon as they would grow and they would, they would kill them and, preserve the meat, and they would eat that meat for next several months, the whole family. The meat, bacon, everything, there was people who would, come and kill and cook your pig for you, an entire whole pig, and preserve your meat, But pig was good to have because all the leftovers from your table would go to feed pigs. So there would be no waste. Even if you didn't finish some food, that would be okay because you had pigs to feed. And so that's how people used to survive. I imagine people that live in the country now, probably not much has changed for them. City folks, everything changed a lot over there from what I hear, Life in the city is similar to here, Just-in-time delivery, everything pretty much year-round, and obviously people are more relaxed. Plus, all those events like Holodomor and Second World War, they go further and further in memory to the new generation. I mean, to me, all that is still fresh in my head because as I was growing up, I heard these stories from my grandparents on both sides, from all other older people, we were in school on a Victory Day, it's the 9th of May, when Germans were defeated. We would have some veteran come and tell stories about war, some war stories and how they were, trying to survive, not just trying not to get killed, also with food because there was just food shortage. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's the story about Ukraine and Ukrainian people. I could make this video for hours, there is no end to these stories. But I know I gotta try to keep it as short as possible. So anyway, if any of you once again have some interest and would like to make me a video about certain events from the Ukraine, or you heard some stories and you want me to tell you my side, please write them in the comments below. Thank you everyone for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please like and share if you find it